to run it through now, but we'll do it in the middle of the service too. Yeah, the words are exactly about the person. Yeah. Okay, all right, let's do simple gospel here. So do some little gospel. I'll start off then. or silver. You've heard it before. So I'll start off with that one.
Good morning. For our call to worship this morning, I'm going to read the words of the Reverend David H. Eaton, who was a minister of All Souls Unitarian in Washington, D.C. All living substances, all substance of energy, being, and purpose, are united and share the same destiny. All people, those we love and those we know not of, are united and share the same destiny. Birth to death, we share this unity with the sun, earth, our brothers and sisters, strangers, flowers of the field, snowflakes, volcanoes, and moonbeams. Birth, life, death. Unknown, known, unknown. Our destiny from unknown to known. May we have the faith to accept this mystery and build upon its everlasting truth. As Marion lights the chalice, I will read these words. The chalice is our most important symbol in Unitarian Universalism. We light it on all of the occasions we ever get together, from Zoom meetings to worship on Sunday. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. Join me and stand if you are able, and join us in singing hymn 127 in the gray hymnal.
Can I see another's woe and not be in sorrow too? Can I see another's grief and not seek for kind relief? Can I see a falling tear and not feel my sorrow share? Can a father see his child weep nor be with sorrow filled? Can a mother sit and hear infant groan and infant fear? No, no, never can it be. Never, never can it be.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster. I'm Cynthia Davis, and together with my colleague Marion Joyce, we are your worship associates for this morning. You are welcome here, no matter what your belief or creed has been, wherever you are from, whoever you love, and however you identify. You are always welcome in this congregation.
Good morning. This reading is a poem written by our guest minister today, Kevin Ressler. It's called 3 Days in the Desert, and it's the title poem from an article that Kevin wrote in a journal for church and theology called Vision, and it was in the October 2019 edition as part of the article. 3 Days in the Desert. I have never known true hunger, yet at least once daily I have been bound by habit, stating with certainty, I'm starving. I flippantly eat a whole bag of chips because I can, because they are there, because bags of consumerism are always there, littering the cabinetry with ugly unnecessity. I have not known thirst, truly, not spot seeing dizzy before falling thirsty. My day's epilogue at worst finishes, I probably should have drunk more water today. I see 3 flames, prayer lamps. They dance as if grading among each other, both fencing and standing alone. I stand among the fires, yet I run cold. How dare I sit stilled in silence while the whole world burns? Who am I to suffer the contemplation available only in privilege? Thinking inactive. Too many times I have heard the mock sincere sounds garbled out of the mouths of religious brethren. Why this thing? Why that thing? Too few times have I heard the cry out from believers, where is God in this? Or from the faithless, I am God. Whether fancied self as follower or a drum-beating troubadour leading yourself, it's a reflection of the future. We make the world the way we walk. Who will follow? What will survive of America? Who will survive as America? We are in time to define time to come. Like Leopold to Congo, this is darkness. Our here's harness is found bright-sunned 3 days in the desert, running for freedom. Hope sold around the world to market shoes. Long lines, sold out. The reckoning is the dead. If there is not death, you will be welcomed with a cold cell and hate. Promises broken. Land of the free, unless pushed away from port, through 3 days in the desert, a killing field.
Thank you. I often come with a warning. I'm not here to make you happy. I'm not here to make you comfortable. I'm also not here to necessarily make you uncomfortable or unhappy. I'm simply here as one of us in the group, designated with the role of hopefully making us think. And maybe, if we're lucky, helping us to feel. In the United States, we have a culture that is designed for us not to feel. We are socialized and structured not to feel. And it's necessary. It is necessary for the experiment as it currently is for us to lack a strong and deep sense of empathy. Because you can't live in the empire and really pay attention to what that means. And we know in this country, this bordered land, this United States, a place so deeply in love with borders that we border ourselves continuously down to the municipal level. Whose is what's and whose responsibility is theirs, and how does the authority... Our police forces don't even enforce the same rules 1 mile to 5 miles down the road. In this place that loves order and structure, we know that we haven't always been this way. We know that it's not that long ago in the grand history of humanity that I wouldn't be allowed to stand in this pulpit and speak with you because of the color of my skin. We know that my dear friend wouldn't be allowed to help lead this worship because of who she loves. This American experiment has incorporated more in it. But we have also exported a lot of things to maintain it. No, we do not have slavery in the United States with the exception of the prisons, which we do still actively participate in slavery, and so with constitutional allowance. But generally speaking, we don't have slavery in the United States, but every single person here, I would guarantee, is wearing at least one article of clothing that was developed with near, if not explicit, slave labor. We have found ways to make invisible the pain to which our reality exists. That's what it means to be in the empire, by the way. That is the concession that you make. That you won't think about the consequences of your safety or comfort. That there are no wars here happens because there are wars everywhere else. Even when they aren't our direct wars, they are our bombs. A destabilized out there is very helpful for a stabilized in here. And how do you maintain that? Borders are really important for oppression. Borders are really important. When this was a country of slavery, we had laws that said if you left a state seeking freedom, it was a requirement of others to return you back to the bordered place to which you were kept. We, and I presume most people in this room, like myself, are progressive-oriented. Probably a lot of Democrats in this room, a lot of liberals in this room. A lot of folks are unhappy right now with the deportations that we see happening. And it pains me, but I do, every time I talk about the deportations, I do remind us that the record holder for deportations in a presidential year is Barack Obama. The second most deporting president is Joe Biden. Now, neither one of them deported with the cruelty that Donald Trump did and is doing, and that is an important distinction. But when it comes to politics and borders, when it comes to empathy and populations, when it comes to saving and salvific actions in this nation, for those who are experiencing the consequence of our empire, the exporting of our slavery and our war, I can tell you with absolute certainty that neither party is any good. Neither party is any good. You will not be able to conveniently vote your way out of the consequences that it means to be a citizen of the empire. For those of you who come from Christian and Jewish traditions, we are Rome in biblical times. For those of you who come from other histories, other backgrounds, I want you to think of your heritage and the stories that maybe you were brought up with from grandparents who immigrated from other places, fleeing persecution. We are the persecutors. That is who we are. It is an uncomfortable truth, but it is the truth. But inside of empire, there is always people, groups of people, individuals of people who say, I will not abide with what I have been told is the natural order, is the necessary obedience for the functioning of this society. So while you may not have a choice or a great choice of whether or not you are in empire, especially because most of us could afford to go to other countries and we would still be linked to the wealth that allowed us to do so. So if you cannot decouple yourself from empire, you can be amongst those who reject what you are being told, that everything is normal, that this is how things are. So I want to talk briefly about how we think about borders, because borders maintain oppression. You cannot have systematic oppression without defined borders. But our concept of borders is not that old. It's important for us to understand that the Western concept of borders starts after the 30-Day War, the Peace of Westphalia in the 1600s, 1649. This begins this understanding of nation states and of defined borders and authorities by governments. So let's go back before then. How did we live before we started to define ourselves in that way? I just got back from a month in East Africa, traveling, visiting family. My mother's family almost all still lives there. I went with my parents, my brothers, and all of our children. There was about 16 of us bopping around in East Africa. A logistical nightmare, by the way. One point we had to rent a whole tour bus just for our family. So my mother is from a tribe called the Luo tribe. The Luo tribe is part of a people group called the Nilotic people. Nilotic peoples are historically nomadic peoples who started at the Nile Delta, the up in the South Sudan area, And over time, they migrated down, and they finished in the area where my mom is from, at Lake Victoria, because their religious perspective was that God is found at the source of the water. So we are very familiar in this society of the Christian narrative and the Jewish narrative where God was going to be found in the promised land, right? There was land. So actually both groups, archaeologists believe, both groups were in Egypt at the same time. This slave revolt happens. It wasn't just the Hebrews who had an exodus. Many different groups at that time. Some groups would actually end up in as far as China. And for the group of which I am based from, on my mom's side, the Nilotic group, we went down the river seeking God at the base of the river. So how do you do borders when you're nomadic? It's very different. The concept is different. The idea is, what do you need to survive? Because when you're a nomadic people, you're constantly moving. You're moving with the seasons. Where can my livestock graze so that they're healthy enough to give off the milk that we're going to consume, so that they're healthy enough to give off enough eggs that we can consume? Where can we grow plants in a season that we can then carry with us, turning into a powder or drying like beans? And so your borders shift over time. And your neighbors have a certain appreciation for your need to migrate and move because they also have a need to migrate and move. The idea of a landedness for nomadic peoples doesn't make sense. And so for much of human history, people groups migrated. The indigenous communities that were on the land that we stand now migrated, we believe, over a land bridge and ended up here through migratory patterns. Down in the south, far in the north, people migrated. And they learned how to survive in ways that tended to be more communal. Because I don't see you as my enemy if I see you as my neighbor. And if I have a naturally formed border, let's call it a boundary instead of a border. If I have a boundary, that is negotiated historically through land masses and markers. Where the eye can see until the mountain range, that's where we are. Up until the water's edge, that's where we are. My animals will drink from this bank, and yours from that. Now, I told you that our understanding today of borders, nation-state borders, largely comes starting at the Peace of Westphalia, and then we fast forward to the 17th century and then into the 20th century, and the borders get harder and harder and more calcified. But the European narrative of history is not the only one. For other contexts, we have, as I mentioned, in Africa, one model. In the indigenous spaces in this country, the idea of land ownership didn't make sense. One cannot own land. And so when the Europeans brought that idea of land ownership here, you had a miscommunication because you had a philosophical difference of understanding. And I'm not accusing the Europeans of particularly intentionally being malicious. They were just taking advantage of a good land deal. Real estate developers and I are not necessarily always on the same page. There's a famous one right now I actually vehemently disagree with almost everything he seems to think. There it is. So, when we think about the history of Islam, largely borders became calcified for that population group in the Ottoman Empire. For the Ottoman Empire, it was about trade routes and being able to have that kind of economics. But what I want to tell you about borders is that what borders are largely doing is protecting the economic interests of one group of people over and above another group of people. Which is why, for me, maybe the most heinous thing I have seen in the last 6 months has not just been the deportations. It has been the gutting of economic aid to the countries to whose poverty is a result of what I opened us up with. The exported slavery for us to have cheap things has created an economic destitution in foreign lands that has led people to flee those places seeking safety. They come here, we push them back, and then we rob from their children the medicines and the food supports for them to be able to survive in the exploited foreign lands of empire. All right, enough with the depressing stuff. What do we do? Is there anything that we can do? Well, the first thing that I'm always going to tell you, the first thing that you can do is develop relationships outside of your historical backgrounds. And then share your perspective with people who have grown up with a different one. Now, this sounds wonderful, and it would be great if it was easy. But it's not easy. But I encountered earlier this week a really interesting idea. I was asked to come and lead a nonviolence training for a Presbyterian church in Strasbourg. And this church has decided that they want to begin accompanying individuals, undocumented individuals, to court cases, medical appointments, to be a witness. Witness itself is an act of defiance against the oppression of empire. We don't know about the bad things that happen in the histories of empires who have gone too far because the people who consented and benefit from it told the stories. We know of it because of those who said, I am uncomfortable with the reality to which I am benefiting, and I am literate, and I have influence, and I have the scope and the ability to be heard, and I am going to say what I have seen. I will not worry about whether or not I make people at the dinner table uncomfortable telling the truth. I will not worry about whether or not my colleagues get annoyed that every single time we have a conversation, I turn it to politics. I will not worry about whether or not I lose friends or family. I will speak the truth, and I will be a witness. I will stand in opposition to oppression. It is achievable for everyone to say what you have seen, to say it out loud, and to say it consistently, and to say it to those who want to hear it as well as those who do not. There is no one in this room who cannot speak an honest truth of discomfort to someone else. We may not be able to make significant changes. We may not be able to be the hero of the story. We may not be able to change how the world looks at borders and boundaries and neighbors and friends, but each of us can be a part of the transformational cultural experience that re-socializes people from exclusion to inclusion. And so that is your invitation today. That is your action. May we be in an empire that doesn't get recorded in the way most have in the past. May we be a part of the empire that decided it doesn't have to be so violent and protective. I don't need as much as I have, and it's okay if children over there have food instead of my bombs. Your voice is and forever will be the only thing that can change the way the world works. So use it. Thank you.
Okay, take a breath. And another breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Let one more breath out. Thank you. You may have come here today with a joy in your heart, a hope, a sorrow, a struggle. Now is the time for our sand garden ritual, where you choose a stone to represent your complex truth and place the stone in the community sand bowl. This is a silent reflection with Alan playing softly on piano. If you are new and wish to place a stone, just follow the others, come up the center, and return by the side aisle. You may start. Thank you. Now, if Cynthia would please place a stone for the safety of Esther Solomon from St. James Episcopal Church. Esther came to the U.S. legally 25 years ago. Her green card was in process. However, she was detained by ICE at a hearing last Monday, and as of Friday, she was being held 2 hours away in a Clinton County correctional facility. May she be released to her family. Next, a stone for Vinicia, a Guatemalan line cook working for my daughter in Philadelphia. He was detained by ICE 2 Fridays ago when he went for a green card hearing. 2 days later, he was deported. Family did not know whether he was being sent back to Guatemala or Venezuela or where. Luckily, he called a few days later to say he had made it back to his hometown in Guatemala. Next, a stone for Farida Mohammadi and broken promises. Farida is was an Afghani female soldier who worked alongside U.S. Special Forces. She was evacuated to Lancaster and resettled here. Her family had to flee the Taliban due to intimidation. They fled to Pakistan. And after the new administration earlier this year, the promises made to resettle them to the US were reneged on, and they are now stuck in Pakistan, where who wants to deport them. And our gratitude to both the Walters Trust and to friends and sponsors of Farida who are working with her to get visas. And some of you know Matt Johnson, he is also helping her. And she is currently trying to figure out whether they go to Singapore or Thailand or Canada. So a stone for Farida and her husband and brother and parents. Now a stone for us all to calm and renew our souls. In Kevin's word, who or what will survive as America? We are in a time to define time to come. ICE changes tactics from street kidnappings to trickery because bystanders acted. Now they trick unsuspecting immigrants inside public buildings, immigrants who are trying to follow the rules and attend their hearings. We are in a time to define time to come. Let us be creative and courageous, maybe crafty. Let us be witnesses. Let us speak the truth. Say it to those who want to hear it and those who do not. Socialize ourselves from inaction to action. And lastly, Cynthia, a stone for all the unspoken joys and concerns among us. A moment of silence. Next, a responsive reading. Hopefully you all got it on the way in. This is also authored by Kevin Ressler and was published in the same Vision article on, as part of the article, Poetic Wrestling with Borderland Injustice. I will say the first line, and then you will respond. From Eden into the world we have come, Lord. As we wander this world of such brokenness and pain, full deep with bigotry and hatred, of crises and disasters, natural and man-made, people on one half of the world chuck food. Too often their meals are memories. Allow us a strength deeper than we could sustain ourselves, knowing we have more to share than we need to protect, to keep.
The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values. The Share the Plate recipient this month is the Pennsylvania Immigrant Resource Center. The plates may now be passed.
Universalists do not have a creed. However, we do have a covenant, and if you look inside our gray hymnal, you will find the words on the right-hand side, and we will say them first in English and then in Spanish. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ofrenda. Este es nuestro gran pacto, el convivir unidos en paz, el buscar la verdad en amor, y ayudarnos unos a los otros. Now Cynthia has some announcements.
I want to draw your attention to the announcements printed on the back of the responsive reading that you received this morning. two other announcements. First, there will be a choir retreat on Sunday, August 24th from noon to 3 right here in the church. There will be music trivia with Alan and Diane. There will be lunch with icebreakers. And of course, there will be singing.
Are we all invited or just the choir?
Next week, our minister is back in the pulpit. For the summer, he has asked all the worship associates to plan the summer services. And for myself, I want to acknowledge and appreciate Marion for helping me with the two that I've done. Reverend Howard will have the next 3 sermons dealing with the authenticity of anger next week, the authenticity of sorrow, and lastly, the authenticity of loving will be his topics. And the other announcement that I have to remember because I forgot it the last time, please join us for coffee downstairs in Emerson Hall right after the service. Now, Kevin will lead us in singing hymn 1030, which is in the Teal hymnal.
All right, so like a good Mennonite boy, we love singing a cappella in my faith tradition. So I'm gonna sing this and lead you all into joining me. So that this is not a solo. Just be very clear, it's not a solo. So I'm gonna need help. Now we're gonna do a couple of verses, and if you look, the first one we are gonna do is we're gonna do the Zulu. It is not that hard, but I'm gonna read the words for you if you may not be familiar. This is a very, very well-known song, so I think many of you will be able to hop right in. But just for pronunciation, Siya Hamba Ku Kenyen Kwen Kos. 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 Right? And then we're going to go back to the English. However, because I'm a good little Mennonite boy, we're not going to be marching. So we're going to skip the marching, especially in the context of thinking of militarism and those things. And we will, down you can see, replace marching with singing, dancing. So we'll do singing and dancing. All right? Siya hamba kuken yen kwen kos. 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 Siya hamba, siya hamba, oh, siya hamba kuken yen kwen kos. Marion wants you to stand up. All right, good. So, practice round done. We're going to do the same thing, almost twice the speed. All right? Siya hamba kuken yen kwen kos. 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 Siya hamba, siya hamba, oh, siya hamba kuken yen kwen kos. We are singing in the light of God. 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 We are singing, oh, we are singing in the light of God. Dancing. We are dancing in the light of God. We are dancing in the light of God. Back to Siahamba. Siahamba. Excellent, everyone. Thank you, thank you. Now you have had a cross-cultural experience this morning.
The chalice, we close with these words from the Reverend Theodore Parker. Be ours a religion which, like the sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living.
Amen.